Hi to all the students, and I am back again with a topic on gardening, that is types of garden. So in this chapter or in this lecture we are going to understand about the various types of garden, and I think that this would be an interesting topic for those who are actually interested in gardening, right? So we are going to understand that what are the types of garden that are made, and what are the plants that are used in making these gardens. We will also understand that how are these gardens made. We will understand the procedure, and I hope that that will help you all to make small, maybe small gardens, maybe smaller version of these gardens at your home, right? So we start. So we know that a garden is a place where we bring out our creativity, we enjoy, and it's like hobby that many people have of gardening, right? So, and gardening also brings out a sense of care in us, because we care for the plants, for um, it's a good health, and that's why it is also an act of caring, right? So gardens are mainly of these types. These are kitchen garden, rock garden, water garden, and terrace garden. So, these are the basic four types of garden that we are going to understand. But apart from these, there is also vertical garden, which is nowadays very much famous in the modern times, right? Because we do not have space, and so in today's time, vertical gardening is something that people adopt. But apart from these are the common types of garden that is usually made. So we will start first of all with kitchen garden, and then we will follow up with the other types of garden. So first of all, let us understand about kitchen garden. So I think by the name itself you can understand that it is a garden which is used to grow vegetables that will be that will become useful in the daily kitchen activities, right? So it is primarily intended for continuous supply of fresh vegetables for family use. So if we want to have fresh vegetables for our family, and if you have the passion for gardening, then this type of garden can be made at our homes. So most owners of houses who have open area behind the house usually make kitchen garden at the backyard. So if it's an open house where you have open area at the backyard, then this becomes the best place where you can grow your all the vegetables and fruits. But if you are someone who stays in the uh, uh, what we say, in flats, right, then you might have less space, so you can also grow vegetables in your balcony, right? So this is just a name given to a garden where we grow our all kinds of vegetables and fruits that becomes useful. So because why do we do this? Because nothing tastes better than homegrown vegetables and fruits. So when you grow something at your home by your own, and you get the product in your hand, that becomes the most excited moment in your life, right? Because you yourself grew something and it gave you a product, maybe a carrot, maybe a um, maybe any vegetable, like maybe a cauliflower, right? That is something that you worked for it, and when you achieve the results, that becomes so exciting, right? So in this way, if you have a larger area at your place, or you have a plot, then you can do kitchen gardening like this. So first and foremost thing for any type of garden is the site, right? So What should be the site for a kitchen garden? First of all, it should be a sunny area, right? So all the vegetables usually require sunlight. So choose a site which gets full sun, and obviously it should be near to your house because you have to carry out all the activities from your house itself. So you will have all your instruments and all your whatever working things near in your house only. So it would be good if your garden is present near the house, like near the backyard, and or if you have a plot, it should be near your house. Okay, kitchen garden is a place where water should be easily available because daily you have to provide with irrigation, you have to provide water. So make sure that nearby you have good water facilities. And of course, it should not be waterlogged soil. So whatever soil you use for the kitchen garden, it should not be waterlogged. By that, I mean that the soil should not be soaked in water. It should not be very wet or muddy, otherwise all of your vegetables are going to die because of waterlogging, because waterlogging will lead to rotting of roots, and that will also lead to unavailability of oxygen for the plants. So make sure that the soil is not waterlogged. Then at your site you can divide the plot into larger rectangular areas, and those areas can also then be further subdivided. So as you see in this plot, there are rectangular plots made, and as per the requirement you can also make subdivisions in this plot. For example, you can divide these rectangular plots into two also. And at the site you need to have narrow paths to be left between the plots for movement. So it is important to put path in between because path will allow you for your activities to be carried out, like you need to water daily but you need to move between the plots. So for all those movements that you have to do, all the instruments that you have to carry, right, you need to have space in between the plots. So a narrow path should be made between the plots. Now for vegetables, usually rich fairly loamy soil is suitable. So one question might come to your mind, that what is a loamy soil? A loamy soil is basically a soil that comprises of three components of soil, that is the sand, silt and clay. Sand is the one that is used in the construction of houses, if you have seen, right? It is material which is, if you add water in it, all the water will drain down, right? It is also called reti in Hindi or Gujarati, right? So that is sand. And then there is clay. Clay is the actual mitti that we call in Hindi. Mitti is like the chikni mitti that we say is the clay, right? Clay is something that do not have good drainage, because clay will always keep hold of water. So if you will add water in clay, what will happen, that the water will remain as it is in the clay, it will take time to go down. So that is clay. And silt is something between sand and clay. So it is a combination of sand and clay, where the particles are larger than the sand and smaller than the clay, right? So sand is the one that has good drainage, clay is the one that actually do not have good drainage, and silt is something between sand and clay, right? So you can always use a loamy soil for vegetables. So loamy soil is the one that is a combination of sand, silt and clay. So it is always good when that you have good mixture of all the types of soil in your for your vegetables. So you need to have equal amounts of sand, silt and clay. That will give a good drainage to your vegetables, right? If you want to understand more about soil particles, that what is sand, silt and clay, since that is also a big topic, you can go back to my lecture where I have explained about soil composition. I'll put up the link below in the description box, so that if you want to understand about soil mixture, you can understand from there very clearly, right? So for now you can understand that loamy soil is something that is a combination of sand, silt and clay. Now when you use root tuber plants, you need to have sandy loam. Now what is sandy loam? Sandy loam is a soil that is also a mixture of all the three, sand, silt and clay, but this will have more sand amount in the loam, which means that sand would be more and silt and clay would be less. So why do we put more sand? Because sand has good drainage, as I said before. So root tubers, they always require very good drainage, so it is advisable to use sandy loam for root tuber plants. Now another important thing is that we should not grow same crop again and again on the same soil, right? Because if we grow the same crop on the same soil again and again, there are many possibilities of diseases that can take place. So what happens if we do continuous cropping? By continuous cropping we mean that on the same soil we are doing cropping every year. So continuous cropping will lead to drainage of soil. So the soil, all the nutrients, it gets drained because of continuous cropping, because the crops will keep on utilizing the soil nutrients, and at last your soil will not have any nutrients, and then no other plants will be able to grow in that soil. So it is important to keep the plot vacant for some time. So when you keep the plot vacant, that is when you keep the plot empty, allow the sunlight to pass through the plot area, which will reduce unnecessary microorganisms, and whatever unnecessary things are present in the soil will get killed due to the sunlight that will fall on the soil particle in the plot. So it is always advisable that we give some time to that plot to remain as it is without any planting, because that will allow the sunlight to pass through and the microorganisms will be reduced. And later on, that soil, after allowing sunlight to pass through, later on after some days, it could be nourished with it could be nourished with organic fertilizers. So later on you can use fertilizers like compost, right? That you can make at your home itself. So you can utilize compost to nourish the soil. That will improve the texture of your soil, and that will also improve the quality of the soil. So you can later on add organic fertilizers, which will make your soil more rich. Now another very important thing when you are going to do kitchen gardening is rotation of crop. It is very important that you rotate your crops. Why? Because for example, if you keep on using the same crop again and again on the same plot, for example, let us take an example that you have a plot, and in that plot you grew in the first season, you grew tomatoes, right? So at a place where you will grow tomato, it is very obvious that certain kind of bugs or insects or diseases will come, right? So now that bug is already there in the soil, you have removed the tomatoes, and now in the next season again you are putting tomatoes, so that bug will remain there permanently, because it knows that the soil is having the crop of its interest. Instead of that, you remove the tomato plant and put there another plant, maybe an onion plant. So the bug will not be able to survive because that bug would be was of tomato. So now tomato is not available, so the bug will go away by itself and it will die, right? So that is why crop rotation is important. Apart from that, crop rotation provides nutrients to different plants, right? So um, crop rotation is also important that way. So let us look at a scheme of crop rotation that is usually carried out in kitchen gardening. So say for example we have three plots, plot 1, plot 2 and plot 3, right? So for example, in season 1 we grew cabbage, cauliflower, turnip in plot 1, right? In plot 2 we grew beans, peas and other leguminous plants. Then in plot 3 we grew potato, carrot, onion, beans, sweet potato. So these are all the root plants, right? These are all the leguminous plants, and these are all the leafy plants, the cabbage, the cauliflower ones, right? So what we will do in the next season is that we will rotate the crop. What we will do, that we will grow potato in the plot 1, cabbage and cauliflower and leafy plants in the plot 2, and the beans, peas and leguminous ones in the plot 3. And then in the next season we will again make a rotation, and like this we can keep on changing the plants in the plots, right? So see, what happens is that, for example, you have for example, if we take this plot as an example, so in the first season you grew leguminous plants. So what do leguminous plants do? Leguminous plants, they are nitrogen fixing plants, so they will fix nitrogen and the soil will be rich in nitrogen. By the time you will remove the plants, the soil will be rich in nitrogen. Now the next season you will grow leafy plants. So leafy plants, they require good amount of nitrogen to grow. So now the soil is already rich in nitrogen because of the leguminous plants. So the cabbage and cauliflower and leafy vegetables will grow very well in this plot because it will get good amount of nitrogen. Now in the next season you can grow what we say as the root plants, right? Because root plants do not require much nitrogen, in fact they require potassium and phosphorus, rather they require more phosphorus, right? So the leafy vegetables, when you will remove it, the soil will be more rich in phosphorus, right? So the the root plants, they will utilize the phosphorus from the soil, that is from the previous soil, and in this way the nutrient availability will be there for all the plants. So that is why it is said that crop rotation is very important. And later on, after this season, you can again grow the leguminous plants, because the leguminous plants will again fix back the nitrogen. It will give back again, it will enrich the soil with nitrogen, and then the nitrogen can later be utilized by the leafy plants. So that's why crop rotation is very important for any type of kitchen gardening. And the same crop rotation is also employed for agricultural purposes also. The same crop rotation pattern is utilized, right? So I hope that this part is clear with you. Now vegetables are mainly divided into two types based upon where it is grown. So vegetables are mainly temperate and subtropical vegetables and the tropical vegetables, right? So what do we mean by temperate and subtropical vegetables? So vegetables that thrive best in cool and moist climate, right? So all those vegetables that you know that can be grown in cold climate, in moist climate, are called the temperate and subtropical vegetables. So temperate mainly means a place where mainly it is cold, and subtropical is also something between temperate and tropical, right? So this is a place where cool and moist climate is required. So in India, we can find such climate in hilly areas, or we can find such climates in places like Himachal Pradesh, like Kashmir, right? So these all are cold places, right? So these are also known as cold season vegetables. So these are mainly known as cold season vegetables. So if you want to grow these vegetables, you need to have cold season in your area. Only then you can grow this cold season vegetables. So these are known as the winter vegetables also. So all of your vegetables like pumpkin and cabbage and whatever all these vegetables that you see, the cauliflowers, the sweet potatoes, the onions, are all called the winter vegetables. In fact, I need to mention that winter is a season where you will observe many type of most of the type of vegetables in the market, because this is the season where most of the vegetables grow very profusely and very happily, right? So winter is a season when you will have n number of vegetables growing in the agricultural fields, and same way you can grow it in your um, gardens also. Then, so example of such vegetables are all the beans, spinach, right? Then turnip, cabbage, cauliflower, celery, onion, peas, potato, carrot, pumpkin, tomato, right? Now, what are tropical vegetables? These can thrive only in hot climate. So tropics, I need to mention that tropics is an area which is near the Tropic of Cancer, where maximum sunlight falls. It is the hottest area, and so these vegetables are called tropical vegetables because they require hot climate to grow. So mainly these vegetables are grown in plains rather than the temperate ones which were grown in hilly areas. Now these are therefore known as summer vegetables, right? So the summer vegetables that you know are the lady's finger, brinjal, all the cucurbitaceous fruits like your what we say cucumber, right? Then bitter gourd, snake gourd, all your parval, sweet potatoes, right? Yam, chilies, all of this can be found in the tropical area, right? So these are the vegetables that require hot climate and not cold climate. Likewise, there are also tropical fruits that are there. These are watermelons, these are bananas, these are muskmelons, papayas, right? All of these require uh, um, a hot climate to grow. So these can be called as summer fruits. Likewise, there are winter fruits also. Like for example, when you see in winter, what are the fruits that are available? There might be cherry, there might be lychee, right? Then there might be kiwi available, right? So all of these are winter fruits that you can find out. So depending upon the climate, what is the climate in your area and what type of climate do the vegetable prefer, based on that you can choose the vegetables and grow in your garden. Now I also need to mention that potato, onion, and tomato is something that is now available year round because of all the technologies that are there, because these can be grown year round nowadays, right? So in fact, nowadays though almost all of the vegetables are available for you in the market year round, but it is always good to grow depending upon the climate the vegetable, because that will give a more better yield and a fresh fruit or vegetable depending upon the climate. Yeah, and vegetables like coriander, mint, which are mainly spices, are often grown in both the seasons. So, all of these are also available year round. Now, the leafy vegetable seeds. So, you might have, for example, if you want to start gardening from scratch, either you use your vegetables that are available in your kitchen, or you can get seeds from the market, which are also available online. So, the leafy vegetable seeds, if you are going to grow, you need to grow it by broadcast method. I hope that all of you know what is broadcast method. That is just spreading the seeds on the soil. Then carrot and radish like vegetables has to be grown by drilling, because they have a cone like shape which has to be drilled inside the soil, and then from that the leaf comes out. Then some like French beans, they are pressed into the soil. So French beans, or whatever kinds of beans that you have, you need to take out the seeds and you need to press that into the soil. Now, certain terms that are important for gardening, these are earthing. Earthing means drawing the soil towards the base of the plant. So when you plant a plant in your soil, right? When you put a plant in your soil, when you draw all the soil from the surrounding area at the base of the plant, we call it earthing, right? Then second term is blanching. Blanching means covering the young shoots with leaves. So when young shoots comes, right, in your plant, you need to protect it, and for its protection you cover the young shoots with the help of leaves, so that it remains moist and protected from the outer environment. That is called blanching. Then thinning is removal of plants and leaves at regular interval. So whenever you do the trimming work, removing of the plants and leaves and shoots and all from your plant, that is called thinning. Then weeding is a very important activity, which means removal of weeds. So whenever you plant a vegetable plant, you might find some other plant popping out of your plot which you do not need, so you have to remove that plant. That plant might be useful in some other cases, but it is something that we do not need in our kitchen garden, then you have to remove it from the plot. So these are some of the important operations in different types of plants, right? And these are some operations that you often need to carry out when you are doing gardening. Okay, so that was it about kitchen garden. So you just have to decide on the site of your garden where you want to make. You can also make your kitchen garden on the terrace if you do not have backyard, and you need to choose the site, you need to choose the proper soil, and you need to give proper watering. Apart from that, you need to decide which vegetables can be grown depending upon your climate, and you need to keep on rotating the crop, right? So that is about kitchen garden. Now we move towards the next type of garden, which is the rock garden. So rock garden, as the name suggests, is a garden that is made with the help of rocks, right? So basically this is a garden which is usually made in a corner, or maybe in center of a garden. If it is a public garden, you can find rock garden in between or at the corner. Also there are whole complete garden which is completely devoted as a rock garden in some parts of the world, right? So this is a mund or bank built of earth and stones and planted with rock plants, which is also called a rockery, right? So a mund means something like a mountain. So this is like a mountain or bank built of earth and stone. So you use soil. Earth here means soil, and you also use various kinds of stones or rocks, and along with that you plant your rock plants in between, plants that can live in rocky conditions. So you need to use rock plants. right? So that is called a rock garden. Now this is an interesting feature because this gives a natural look of a mountain area maybe, or it gives a natural look of a stony area, and this has become an interesting feature in today's time. So laying of rock garden is to bring the nature at home, right? So when you build a rock garden, it is not just that you have to put your all the stones one above the other. That is not rock garden. Rock garden should have a natural beauty, as if it is something where you have seen naturally in a natural area, and when you see your rock garden you should have the same feeling. So here in a rock garden, rocks serve as a flower pot, right? What does this mean? That in a rock garden, between rocks, when we use rocks in the rock garden, between the rocks we have space, and in that space we will put our plants. So rock will serve the purpose of flower pot. So if you see these two pictures, you will be able to understand what is a rock garden is. So if you see in this picture, you can see that this is made in a garden. This is a green garden, maybe a home garden, and at the corner of this garden this rock garden is made. So we can say that this rock garden is a part of this whole garden, right? So this is kind of a artificial rock garden made, but as you can see it looks natural also. So there are larger rocks used, there are smaller ones used, there are in between plants used. Now these plants are planted between the rocks, so rock serves as the flower pot. Same thing is here in this rock garden. As you can see, various types of smooth soft rocks are used, and in between flowers are installed, right? So these are some examples of rock garden. Now how should be the site of a rock garden? A rock garden should be as far removed from a formal environment as possible, which means that the rock garden should not have a formal look. So when you have a garden, you need to give your rock garden a informal look, that is a look which is not symmetrical, that has no particular shape, but it looks like a natural environment. So it should not have a formal environment, and for that it is very important that the surrounding environment should also be informal, right? So it should be away from formal environment. It should be something like where it is present, it is an informal type of environment which has no symmetry or shape. So another thing is that the site should be in full light, because the plants that we use are mostly the rocky plants. Rocky plants are the ones that are the plants that can survive without water, but they require full sun. These are mainly the plants that are desert plants, or plants that do not require more water, but they require good amount of sunlight. So these plants should get sunlight, and therefore the area should be in full light and sunshine for most of the day, right? Now apart from that, it is important that we need to keep the rock garden away from other trees, greenhouses and hedges like artificial surrounding, because greenhouses are artificial things. So we need to keep the greenhouse and the rock garden away, because greenhouse will give a formal look to this, and greenhouse, as it is artificial, it will have a formal look, it will have a symmetrical look. So we need to separate the things that are symmetrical, because rock garden is something which is asymmetrical, right? Likewise, it should also be away from hedges. Hedges are the boundary of the garden. So if you have like firm boundaries and all in your garden, don't try to put rock garden in between, it will also look artificial, right? And it should be away from other trees, because trees will provide shade, which is not good for rock garden. And Obviously avoid waterlogged areas, because rocky plants, the plants that we use, will never need a soil that is waterlogged. It will not be able to survive, the roots will get rotted, and therefore always use an area which is away from waterlogging. And avoid spaces between two houses. This is a very important thing, that for example, there are two houses, and in between the two houses there is a space. So if you think of making rock garden between the two houses, that would be the worst decision, because your houses are symmetrical things, and when you put something asymmetrical in between, it will not match up with the surrounding area. And therefore it is important that you should not do like this, where two houses are present and space is there, so you think of making rock garden. That is not a good idea, right? Now the various types of rocks are available which you can use in your rock garden. So we have different size and shape of rocks that are needed in your garden, and it is also available in the market. So best material is soft stone. The stone that are smooth and soft ones are good, because these stones now, they absorb moisture. So these stones can absorb moisture, and this moisture can become available to the plants. So the plant will be encouraged to grow because of the moisture in the stone. So you can select the rocks you want to use in your garden. You have to decide what type of rock, what type of shape of rock or size of rock you want to use in your garden. So choose rocks based on what you have available at your local gardening or landscaping store. So whatever is available at your local area, always choose that. Don't try to go for very exotic things. So choose rocks. So whatever is available at your local gardening store or landscaping store, go there and purchase that rock. Obviously decide on what rock you want to have, but it is always better that you choose the local rocks that is available. And if you get local stones, that is the stones that belong to your area, are the cheapest and most easily available ones. So always go for local stones. Apart from that, you will also need larger stones in your rock garden, and not like very larger ones, but if you are going to make a really large rock garden, then it is important that you get larger stones. Now that can be supplied by the stone suppliers in the city. In your city there might be many stone suppliers. Contact them, go there and find out the stones that you want. Also apart from that, several painted stones are available, so that can also be utilized. The paint is all usually of iron sulfate coating that is done. So whatever rock you choose, it should be at least 2 to 3 feet long, right? And should be broad with side pockets. So every rock should have side pocket, because that pocket will allow the plant, um, will have the space for the plant to get in. Side pockets are important when you go for rock garden. So the various types of rocks that are available, I need not mention, you all must have seen all this somewhere along. So these are the various types of rocks that you can utilize: the larger ones, the smooth ones, the soft ones, and the smaller ones. So depending upon the size of your rock garden and the shape of the rock garden that you have preferred, you can utilize the rocks accordingly, right? Now preparation or laying out of garden. So how are you going to put up your rock garden, that we are going to understand. So we will understand that what is the procedure of making a rock garden. So very first of all, lay out a circle of rock as the perimeter of the rock garden. So what I'll do now is I will maybe draw roughly and show you that what can be done, right? So okay, so very first thing is that we need to lay out a circle of rock as the perimeter of the rock garden. Very first thing is, so you have to decide the site. After deciding the site, now sorry, I'll draw here. What you can do is you need to identify the circle. For example, I am going to grow this much area of rock garden. So what I'll do, I'll place a circle of rock everywhere so that I can define the shape of my rock garden, right? So this will define the shape of my rock garden, that only up to this area I want to make the rock garden. So this is the perimeter of the rock garden, right? Now place the first layer, that is the larger, not so good looking ones. So the very first layer of rock that you will have are the larger rocks, right? And also these will be the rocks that are not the good looking ones, because the not good looking ones will go down and form the base. So all your larger rocks now you can place here at the base, that will form the base of your rock garden, right? So put all the larger not good looking ones at the base, right? Now why do we use larger ones? Because that forms bottom layer and it will also be acting as an elevation bed. The larger rocks will raise the level of your bottom layer, and rocks, whatever rock you place should be tilted slightly so that water need to seep down. So whatever rock you place here, it should be tilted, that is little bit it should have space for the water to seep down, otherwise the water will remain over the whatever stone is there, over that the water will remain. Now the next step is add soil in the spaces between. So let me change the color for you. Okay, I don't have here any brown color, so fine, so I use yellow. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to add soil in the spaces. You can see that here there is space available, so fill it up with soil. You put up soil in between all of these empty spaces, fill up soil, right? So you need to fill soil all over here wherever you find space between the rocks, right? And your soil should be a well drained soil, that is a soil that can allow water to easily move through. So it should be either sandy or a mix of sandy, clay or compost. So when you use a mixture of soil, it becomes the best type of soil. And now you need to walk over the soil. So whatever soil you have placed here, you walk simply over it so that the soil gets packed very tightly, right? And then place the second layer of rock, the smaller diameter than the second layer. Now what you need to do is, I'll change the color. Okay, I'll use blue. So now what you have to do is, we already have applied the first layer of rock and then we added the soil in between the crevices. Now we will add the second layer of rock. Its perimeter should be lesser than the first layer, right? So the perimeter should be lesser than the first layer, diameter should be less than the first layer that we had at the bottom, so it should be a smaller layer. Maybe I can draw a little big, right? And now you have to place the second layer of rock. So what you need to do, you need to use the remaining smaller attractive rocks over here. So you can use the smaller attractive rocks over here that will look good. So you can use the smaller rocks, right? Whichever way you want, you find you can adjust it. Use the smaller rocks, right? And um, now it is time to add plants. So you need to push plants into the crevices. Now wherever you have crevices, you need to push your plants. Now the next step is adding the plants. So you have space in between rock. So what you can do is you can put your plant in the crevices, right? Whatever plant you have, put it in the crevices. Sorry. So in the crevices you can push your plants. And for that you need to choose the plants that grows in good drainage. Okay, sorry. So you need to choose plants that prefers good drainage, because we have chosen here soil that is well drained soil, and we have chosen rock. So you have to use plants that require good drainage, and the area between two circles should be wide enough. That is, the area between this circle and this circle should be wide enough to place plants inside. So you can also place your plants in this area where you have the space between two circles, right? You can place your plants in these crevices also. So the space, that is the pocket for the plants where you have to place the plants, it should be 12 to 18 inches deep at least, right? So the crevices should be 12 to 18 inches deep, and in all that area you can push your plants inside. And another thing is use plants of similar nature. So what you need to do is you need to use plants of similar nature. That is, plants that all of the plants should be the ones that should be rocky plants, because if you choose a plant that requires maybe for example, if you choose a plant that requires what we say like shady area, right? So that is not a good option, because then you will not have a shady area in your rock garden. Or if you choose a plant that requires like all time water, that is also not possible, because we keep your plants that is low on maintenance, right? So you need to use plants of similar nature. Consider light requirements of plant based on the location. So where you place your rock garden, based on that you need to know the light requirement of the plant. There are some plants that might require like uh, 6 hours of sunlight, some plants might require 3 hours of sunlight. So you need to choose your plant accordingly. And it is very important that you use plants with variety in size and texture to be used. So whatever plants you used, there should be variety in the plants. It should not be that all the plants are of the same type. You can use plants with different colors, with different leaf textures and different flower textures, and this should gradually merge into general surface of the ground. And whatever plants you have added, it should merge with the surrounding area. So the surrounding area should merge with the rock garden, or we can say that the rock garden should merge with the surrounding area. It should not look like a totally different piece of artifact, right? So yeah, so this is it about rock garden. This is how you can make rock garden. it could be a small rock garden if you have a smaller space in your home. It could be a larger rock garden if it is a very large garden. So depending upon that, you can choose your rocks, your plants, and you can build accordingly. So these are the examples of rock garden, which I already had put the photographs previously also, but this is just to give you a broader look. Now, depending upon the plants, composition of soil pockets also vary. So, where you place the soil, that is, the area where you place your plant is called the soil pocket. So, that soil composition also varies. Some plants might require very well drained soil, some plants will require little well drained soil. So, you need to add soil accordingly. Apart from that, in a rock garden, you can also add a pool or waterfall. Uh, so, for that, you can provide pumps also. Pumps are useful to enable the same water to be used again and again. So, as you can see in this rock garden, there is a waterfall, right? So, a pump is usually provided here. What that pump will do, it will utilize the same water again and again, and it will keep on falling, right? So a pool or water can be generated in the water garden. Now some important plants for rock garden are, these are the Campanula arvatica. These are the beautiful purple flowered little herbs. Then Dianthus deltoides, this is mainly a winter plant. If you might have gone in the nursery, you would have seen these kind of, these are available in various colors. This is called Dianthus. Then Gentiana acalis, this is also called blue bell flower. Then Potentilla fruticosa, this is also a rock garden plant. Then Sedum spathifolium, so this is a mainly desert plant. It requires full sun, right? So it also does not require water at all. Then Phlox subulata, so this is Phlox subulata. So these are some of the colorful rock garden plants that can be used to build your rock garden. Now coming to the next type of garden, the third type of garden, which is water garden. So I hope that how can you build the rock garden is clear with you. Now we will move towards the understanding of water garden. So water gardens are also known as aquatic gardens. These are a type of water feature. So water gardens are the gardens where you use water as a base, right? So whatever plants that you use are also plants that can grow in water. So this is a kind of aquatic garden. So most of the great garden of the world use water in their settings. So this is also, water garden often becomes a part of a big garden. So if you ever might have gone into a big public garden, you might also have seen water garden over there. There is something about water that relaxes us, that makes us feel peaceful and calm, right? Whenever we see water, it gives us a sense of relaxation. May it be seeing water in the Taj Mahal, in the water channel of the Taj Mahal, may it be the falling rainwater, may it be seeing a pond filled with water, it always gives us a sense of relaxation, right? So therefore water garden is a good idea to have that sense of relaxation. Now also water features are becoming common additions to gardens. So because of this reason, water garden or water features are has become an important part of every garden. Now what should be the site of a water garden? Like all the other types of garden, um, the area should be in sunlight, and already, if in the area you have natural stream or pond that already exist, it becomes easier to develop the water garden. So if you have already have natural stream or pond in the area where you live, that becomes a good base to form a water garden. Or otherwise you can always form an artificial pond, right? And that artificial pond obviously should fit into the whole design. So it should fit into the whole design of your garden. As I said, it should be a completely sunny spot, because all the aquatic plants, they require uh, full sunlight most of the time of the day, right? Now, so how can you build a water garden? For example, if you have a larger area, in a large area, if you want to build a water garden, how will you make? So, just a minute. Okay, so how can you make a large area, a pond in a large area, right? So if you have a large garden and you want a pond to be made in that large garden, so how can you make? So first of all, you need to mark the boundary of the pool. So like in the rock garden, we saw that we marked the boundary. So in this pool also, in this area also, we need to mark the boundary, so that we know that what is the area in which we want to make the pool. And then you need to excavate the earth, that is, you have to remove the soil from that area to a certain depth, right? And this should be done before rattling lawn or nearby structures. Now see this, if you have decided to make a pool in a big garden, that should be made before the lawn is made. So if you are going to make a lawn in that area, before making that lawn, do this excavation work, because the excavation work will remove so much of soil, and if you have already made your lawn will become dirty. So it is always a good idea to excavate the earth to remove the soil particles up to whatever depth you want before the making of the lawn. Then use cement or concrete to form the pond. Now whatever earth you have excavated, depth that is formed has to be covered with cement or concrete, right? So cover the base with cement or concrete, and then the central region of the pond should be at least 6 feet inch deep. So this should be 6 feet at least deep. Now on the concrete, 6 inches of compost is to be spread. So whatever plant we are going to plant, we need to add soil or compost. So it is a good idea that you spread 6 inches of compost over the cement surface. So here there is written that free lime in concrete will seep out. Poisons are present in concrete. Okay, this is actually a line that I got skipped. When you make the cement or concrete pond, right, when you apply cement or concrete, it is always a good idea that you keep your cement or concrete pond as it is for certain months or days, because there is lime present in cement or concrete, which is not good for the aquatic plants or fishes, because that becomes poisonous. So if you keep your pond as it is for some time, all the lime will seep out, all the poisonous chemicals will seep out, and later on you can put your plants in the pond. So that is to be done, and then after that you can add compost. Now yeah, the same thing that is said, after filling water, allow pool to remain as it is for several months. So after you fill water in your pond, allow the pool to remain as it is for several months, because as I said, that will allow the lime to seep into the water, and later on you can remove that water, and then you can add new water in which aquatic plants will survive. Otherwise will what will happen, that the lime and other chemicals will kill the aquatic plants. And now then you can add the plants and fish in the water. This is how you can make a pond in a larger area. Now since we are talking about water garden, it is very important that we understand about the types of plant that are used in a water garden. So mainly four types of plant are used in water garden. These are the rooted floating ones, the submerged oxygenating plants, the floating plants, and the marginal plants. Right? So what are the rooted floating plants? These are deep water plants. These are the plants that have root in the bottom of pond or container. So these plants will have their roots at the bottom of the pond, and their leaves will float on the water surface, right? So the best example of rooted floating plants are lotus or nelumbo and water lilies, right? So these are the rooted floating plants. They have their roots at the bottom of the pond, and their leaves and flowers are floating on the top of the flower. So therefore these are called rooted floatings. Rooted means they are rooted at the base, and floating means their leaves and flowers are floating. Now these plants are the sun loving plants. They love sun, so they survive with 10 to 20 centimeter deep water above their crown. That is, above their stem they need to have at least 10 to 20 centimeter of deep water. That is, all of their stem should be submerged in water. Only leaf and water should be on the top. So what happens is that the leaves of this plant, it provides shade to the organisms that are present below, and it also reduces algae, and this is also a fish hide. So fishes can hide below this big leaves, and it gets saved from other organisms. And most of the species of these rooted floating plants have very beautiful flowers, as you can already see in the example. These are flowers like lotus and water lily, right? So this is one kind of plant. Then the next type of plant that is used in water garden are submerged oxygenated plants. These are the plants that have roots submerged in soil. So roots of this plant is submerged in soil, and body completely underwater. So the body of this plant is completely underwater. You cannot see this plant above water, right? So this keeps the pond healthy and water clear. The plants of this layer are known to make the pond healthy, and they clear the water. They also release oxygen. Since these are submerged, that is, they are present inside the water, they release oxygen in the water, and that oxygen becomes available to the other aquatic life forms like fishes, right? So these oxygen that the oxygenated plants provide becomes available to all the aquatic life forms. So therefore these are also called oxygenating plants. So these are plants like hydrilla, right? And plants like anacaris, right? So hydrilla is a very famous plant, and it is also very easy to grow. So you will have many experiments in botany which totally uses hydrilla as an experimentation plant. So hydrilla is a submerged oxygenating plant. Now this is also a very fast growing plant. So if you find that this plant is growing very fast, you can cut some part of this leaves, and these leaves can also be used for composting, right? Because it will grow very fast, so if you cut some, it will not that will not be a matter of concern. Now this plant is also a nutrient for fish and other aquatic organisms, right? So other organisms use these plants as nutrient also, they eat these plants, so in that way they remain in control also. Now the third type of plants are the floating plants. Now these are the plants that float on water, so they do not need to anchor in base or soil, so their roots actually do not remain anchored in the soil. um, these plants, they remove excess nutrients, right? So whatever excess nutrients is there, they will utilize it and remove the excess nutrients from the soil, and this will reduce algal growth. Now see, in any pond, when does algal growth take place? When the water has a large amount of nutrient. Algae require nutrient to grow, so when there is excess nutrients present in a pond or water, algae will start growing. So if you want to reduce algal growth, it is best idea to remove excess nutrients with the help of these floating plants. They extract nutrients directly from water. They are very efficient in extracting nutrient from water. Now these are very small plants, very small plants like azolla, and even smaller plants like wolffia. Maybe I can just zoom and show you. These kind of very small plants are there. This is azolla. They just float on water. Their roots are also in water. They do not require roots to be present in the soil, right? Now the next type of plant is marginal plants. So these are the plants that grow in the margin of the pond. They grow in shallow margin around the edge of the pond. They can grow up to 10 centimeter water above ground. So wherever their stem is present, so above their stem they can have 10 centimeter of water. This adds decoration. Now what is the use of marginal plant? They are decorative, and it helps merge pond with the surrounding. Now as you will have these marginal plants in at the surrounding of the pond, it will look like your pond has merged into the surrounding, and this also serve as a barrier or protection, so it will provide protection to the pond. So these are plants like typha or water iris. As you can see, these plants are partially in water and partially above the ground, right? So I hope that the various types of plants are clear with you. The rooted floating plants like lotus and water lily, the submerged oxygenated plants that are completely in water, these are hydrilla and anacharis like, and then the floating plants, these are very small, their roots do not need to be joined with the soil. These are azolla and wolffia, these are completely floating on water. And then there are marginal plants that are present at the margin, in the margin of the pond. These are plants like typha and anacharis, water iris. Now, how to make a small artificial water garden? Suppose you have a small your home is a small area, right, and you want to have a small artificial water garden. How can you make? Let us see that. So you can make water garden in a big bucket at your home, right? This is very easy, and you can make at your own home in a very big bucket. So this is also called as half barrel garden. This type of garden, when you make in a big bucket, it is called a half barrel water garden. So what are the materials that you will need? You will need a big bucket like container. You will need bricks and pavers. you will need plant pot and soil, and you will need newspapers or crocks, and apart from that you might need gravel and stones. Right, now we look into the procedure. First procedure is you need to choose a watertight container. Right, so you can choose this type of barrel, a tight container, a large one. Then prepare pots for plant and keep ready. So now you have to keep your plants, whatever you want to use, ready in a pot. So for example, you are using rooted floating like lotus, you need to put your lotus plant in a smaller pot and keep it ready. Similarly, you need to keep your other plants like marginal plants in a pot and keep it ready. Right, now what is the soil that you will use? That is a clay garden soil. So you can use a soil that has a soil holding capacity. Right, and the pot that you should use for your plants are the for marginals it should be 6, that is 15 centimeter wide, and for medium sized rooted floatings you will require 20 centimeter because these are larger plants, and for submerged they require a much small pot because they do not need to be present outside the water, and floating ones like the smaller ones like azolla, they need no pot because they can float. Now the plant pots are of various types, so this kind of small plant pots you can use, and you need to pot your plants in these pots. Right, now the next step is how will you ready your pot? You will cover the hole in the pot, you will have a hole, you need to cover the hole, put the garden soil. Right, and place the plant and cover remaining soil. So in this way you will prepare your pot. Right, you will cover it with garden soil and then you will cover the remaining soil. Sprinkle water in your pot and spread pebbles. So you need to spread pebbles over the top so that whatever soil you have added that does not come out when you put it in the water. So you need to spread pebbles that will pack your soil and gravels over the top. Now this pot can be placed in the large tub. So as you can see, these floating things that you see is actually present in a pot at the bottom of this large tub. And how will you adjust the height? You need to adjust the height of the plant with the help of brick or pavers. So this brick or pavers are mainly for adjustment of height because the rooted floating ones will require certain height, the marginal ones will require certain height. So use paver blocks or bricks accordingly. Now this is an example to make you understand how how a water garden can be made. So as you can see, this is a water garden. This is a rooted floating plant, right? This is a submerged plant completely in water. These are the floating plants, the very small ones like the azolla, right? And this is the marginal plant. As you can see, it is half in water and half above. Right, and the rooted floating ones are completely in water except the leaf and flower is out. Right, so and you can see that there are bricks used. See, the submerged one do not require brick because it has to remain completely submerged in water, but you have to adjust the height of the rooted floating ones according to the height of its plant because you need to put the leaf on the top. So accordingly you need to add bricks or pavers at the bottom in a way that the leaf float on the top. So here 5 bricks are used, here 3 bricks are used, and in that way you can adjust the height. Now so as I told, this is for adjusting level, bricks are used at the bottom. So this is arrangement for a smaller pot or medium sized pond, right? But for a larger pond, this kind of arrangement can be made. What is the arrangement? Here bricks are not used. In the place this kind of zigzag pattern is done. So marginals can be placed here. The floating ones, the rooted floating ones can be placed here. So accordingly they have provided place for the pots to be kept, right? So when you see a pond, this is very obvious that in many ponds at the below, the plants that you see on the top are usually present in the pots below, right? So this is the idea, the basic idea behind a water garden. So these are some of the figures of a water garden, photographs. As you can see, these are the floating ones, these are the marginal ones, right? And this is just a path provided. And you can see this is a smaller garden. As you can see, these are the rooted floating ones, these are the marginal ones, right? But here there are no floating ones, right? So if you make a small water garden, you do not need to add floating plants, because that will fill up your water. Because if you make a garden in a bucket, you need not add floating ones, you just add the rooted floating ones and that would be enough. And keep your bucket water garden in full sunlight, where you can get like at least 6 hours of sunlight. Right? So this is it about water garden. Yeah, so this is a bucket garden. As you can see, there is these two are marginal plants and these are the floating plants that are used. Now coming to the very last type of garden, which is the terrace garden. So terrace garden are becoming an essential feature of modern gardens, because now see what happens, that in today's time we do not have space. We live in flats and there is not enough space available. So we often prefer to make garden in the terrace. So you might have seen people making garden in their penthouses, and people making garden at the terrace, at the roof of their houses. So that is called terrace garden. Now basically terrace garden for us by the name literally means a garden that we make at the roof of the house. But terrace garden mainly has two meanings. First is a garden that is built on the roof of the house, and second is a layered arrangement. Let us understand both of this. A garden built on the roof, that is, these are the garden that could be on terrace of a house or a flat. So when you make a garden and place pots or garden at the top of your house, that is called a terrace garden. This is mainly because of unavailability of space, because of which we make terrace garden. So mainly your kitchen garden could also reach on the terrace. So you can make your kitchen garden on the roof of your house, or it could be just a sitting garden for a family time. So you may make a family time garden at the top of your house. So a terrace garden at top can also have layering. Now this is related to the layered arrangement, but this when we will understand, it will be clear to you. So as you can see, these are terrace garden made at the top of the houses. This is like a maybe family garden, or it could be like a kitchen garden or ornamental garden. Now these are also known as rooftop gardens, and based on this there are also many restaurants that are called rooftop restaurants, where at the terrace restaurants are made, where people sit and enjoy along with the plants, right? So you also have rooftop restaurants. Now waterproofing is important when heavy planting is to be done, but this is a very important thing, that when you make a garden on terrace, it is very important that you do waterproofing at the base, because we use water to water for the plants, right? So your plants require water, you add water every day, and that water might seep into your houses from the roof. So that is not a good thing, because over the period of time your house will become weak and it may demolish, right? So it is very important that you have waterproofing at the base of your roof. Now, what is a layered arrangement? Layered arrangement is like the potted plants are arranged in different layers. So how can I explain you best with a photograph? So this is called layered arrangement, and this is also called terrace gardening. So what we do, that we use certain kind of layers, like this is a iron rack that is used, this is a wooden rack that is used. We are providing layering, and these layers are called, like this is terrace, this is terrace 1, this is terrace 2, this is terrace 3, and this is also called terrace garden. So this kind of layered arrangement is also called terrace garden, if you do not know, right? So what we do, we put our potted plants in different layers. We are putting plants in different layers. So we can also use raised beds. So in different layer we are putting our soil bed, which is raised, constructed to improve look of the garden. Usually this is done to improve the look of the garden. This enhances the look, and this is also done to accommodate more plants in one space. Suppose you are living in a flat, you do not have much space, so if you put all the pots in just in your balcony just like that, that will take up so much space. So it is always a good idea to use a rack, and that will accommodate many plants, right? And terraces therefore can be made at any level in the garden, and this is you often also made to make space for children to play. So if you have so many pots, so children might not have space to play in your garden, so you can use rack in this way. So various types of materials are used for terracing. These are brick, concrete, flagstone, wood, etc. Anything can be used for terracing. And coming to this point, which says that a terrace garden at the top can also have layers. So if you make a terrace garden on the top of your house, here also you can have this kind of racks present that will provide terracing or layering. So both of these are called terrace gardens, and these are nowadays important since we do not have much space. Space management has become a very important issue in our today's time. So during such times we can use terrace gardens. Along with this, we can also use vertical gardens, that is utilizing a wall for growing plants. So that is also a good idea, right? So with this we come to the end of this lecture. I hope that I was able to make you understand everything, but if you have any doubt, please do ask me. I'll clear it for you. Till then, bye bye and thank you.